Hey, how's it going? And welcome to another episode of Beyond the Button. We haven't done an episode of Beyond the Button in a while now, and I thought we would get into it. I am recording on the weekend, just something I've been messing with this weekend that I think is really interesting. The topic I want to talk about today and show is kind of the mix of open source intelligence or open source tools and your big box or proprietary or premium tools such as FTK. Because I think mixing those two technologies and those two mentalities can be really cool and yield some really impressive results and help you out in your investigations. One of the things I came across in the last week or so is OpenAI's Whisper. It can generate transcription from audio, whether that's an audio file or a video, as well as detect language. And I think it even has some translation features, but I haven't got to those yet. Maybe that'll be another episode at a later point. But I want to show you how you can leverage open source tools like OpenAI's Whisper with FTK to yield really quality results. So we'll divide this video into two parts. First, I'm just going to show you how you can use it with FTK to get the results that you may want, that you need, how you can really leverage this feature. Then in the second part of the video, we'll talk about setup, configuration, anything like that if you actually want to get in and use it. So first part, actual use, second part, setup, configuration, etc. Here we are in the FTK video tab. One thing to note with the video tab is it also contains your audio files. So we have two audio files here. We're going to focus primarily on the video just for the sake of this. However, just know that Whisper, of course, works on straight up audio. So if you had voicemail, audio recordings on a phone, whatever the case may be, that's just pure audio, this is going to work as well. So we're in the video. We have some thumbnails set up. Just so you know, we did improve the speed massively of thumbnail generation. It's just one of those things that now there's just really no excuse not to run it if you're working a video case. So we're going to start here because we're going to generate some, we want to generate some transcription. We're going to leverage the FTK Python Scripter because we wrote a Python script to, transcribe our audio using this open source tool. So we'll grab video playback and Sim21 clip, okay? But we could do all of them if we wanted. Actually, we'll also do Twitch Spanish, okay? Just to show that feature. A cool feature of Whisper is that it can detect languages. So in this case, I went on to twitch.tv, picked a random Spanish-speaking stream, cut a clip out of it, and uploaded it just to test it. And so we'll run that. So a couple different ways to get into Python Scripter. I have a whole video on that, but we right click and we can go to run Python script, or of course you can go up to tools and run Python script, either way. What we want to do is we want to do all checked. We're going to export those out. So in this case, we're going to export it out to our desktop. I'm not saying that's the best place to go, but easy enough to py out. And it doesn't matter what you name that directory. I just like to name it py out. So we're going to go ahead and click next. And while that exports, you might be thinking, hey, isn't this beyond the button and yet you're clicking buttons? Well, yeah, but I wrote the Python script and OpenAI's Whisper is not a push button solution. So we're kind of going beyond the button here to integrate open source tools with our big box forensics to get great results. And that's because we can rely on the big box forensics and all the cool features we pack into things like FTK to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, do a lot of the other stuff, and we can use open source to do these niche things and solve specific problems. So once it's exported, we're going to go ahead and select our Python script. Notice that our output folder has already been generated. So we're going to come here and specify where we want our results to go. So I have PyResults here already done, but what we'll do is we'll make another one, call this one PyResults1. Click OK and OK. So we have PyResults1. Now, some of the parameters of this, I can do -D to detect languages. So like with this Spanish one, it'll tell us that it's Spanish. Now, the cool thing about OpenAI's Whisper is that it will actually detect and transcribe the language automatically. So you don't actually have to code into your script this, but what I wanted is to append the language to the resulting file name of the transcription so that when you look at it, it gives you the language there. You can see EN or ES for EN for English, ES for Spanish. So if I do -D there, it'll detect the language and add that to the file name so we know what we've got. The other thing that we can do is AI's Whisper relies on language models. AI, is all about models and patterns and that sort of thing. So out of the box, it comes with various sizes of the model: tiny, base, small, medium, and large. So you can adjust what size you want in. Now, why might you adjust those sizes? We'll talk about that in the second stage. But if you wanted to do tiny, you could do -T, -B would be base, -S would be small, although small is the one I've set for default in my script, so I actually don't have to do that. -M is medium, and of course -L would be large. We're going to do .B because I want to show what happens if you run Whisper for the first time without building the language model. So I've run it on small already, so it would actually just run without doing this one step, and we'll see it. So I'll switch it to base and we'll run it here. Once we get our script set up, we go ahead and we click next and we let that run. Now, what's happening here that you can see in the Python scripter, because this is showing standard out, is it's building the model in memory so that it can then run that model against your stuff. Anytime you switch models, you'll have to reload this in. So we're going to let this run. It's going to take a little bit on this laptop because it's a weaker laptop. It goes a bit faster on my desktop. So we'll cut back in when we're ready for that. So we're about ready to finish up the load here. And then once it has loaded up, it's automatically going to jump in and start running the script. So now what it's doing is it's looking at each audio file that we passed it. In this case, Sim21 clip, Twitch Spanish, and video playback.mp4, and it's transcribing that audio. Once it finishes, it'll finish. My script is really bare bones right now. It doesn't have much in the way of output, and so that's about it. So we're going to go ahead and click next. And what we want to do here, and this is why combining open source with FTK is kind of cool, we can create a bookmark from that. So we're going to do, we'll call it audio transcribed. And we're going to add it to administrator, and we see all of our text files here. So we'll click next, and it's going to kick it into audio transcribed, and we'll click next, and it gives us a little thing. We got no errors, etc. And we'll click finish, and we're good. So now if we jump over to our bookmarks tab, we have audio transcribed, and we have our 3 files that we looked at. Those are bookmarked here. And then if I click on the supplemental file over here, which is the file we generated and it's automatically appended to our case, let me bring this up a little bit. We can see here the text that was extracted out of that. And this is from the podcast that may or may not be out when you're watching this, but it's our podcast where we sit down with Tom Oldroyd of Semantics 21 at Techno, and we talk about how Semantics 21 is integrated with FTK and also doing a lot of work in the area of CSAM investigations. Really cool. Check it out. So if we right click on that clip and we go up to open with an external program and we open up VLC player.
Charity that bridges the gap between technology companies, so the likes of Facebook, your Twitters, Mega, Pornhub,
over here and
we kind of sit with that group to see what are the trends that they're detecting. And when I was in law enforcement, we would have looked at Facebook and said they were the devil. They kind of aren't doing enough to protect society. Having seen the other side of the scope, they're doing an awful lot. And behind the scenes, they are advising and helping other companies that have technology problems. So they will find a trend on their platform.
It is really
and
close,
then tell the platforms to keep their eye out for those issues.
Right up there. And remember, we did the base. I actually downgraded it. Normally, I run small, but I wanted to show you how it loads that in. So we can actually get, there was no errors there as we kind of went through, but you can see here at the end it says, I'm Sean Penn. That's not what he said. pretty sure he said, I'm just sure, or something like that. If we do a small or even a medium, you wouldn't have those errors.
In fact, if we take a look at this other bookmark called transcribed audio, which was one I ran with the small model loaded one step up from what we did just a minute ago, you can see here at the end, it's not I'm Sean Penn, it's I'm sure.
If we look over here at our supplementary files, notice that we have 2 English exports and a Spanish. So 2 ENs and 1 ES. If we click on the Twitch Spanish transcription text, then you can see that there is some Spanish here. And I can't read Spanish, so I have no idea what that says or if it's even correct. But one thing I will say here, if you're not going to watch the setup, is if you are planning on doing non-English languages, you should use the large model to get the best results for non-English. That's per OpenAI's Whisper documentation. So now one consideration, and where again kind of these bigger tools can help you out, is FTK has like a really powerful text searching ability with index search. So we could actually add these supplemental files in as evidence items and search that. So again, we could go out and go to evidence, add, remove. We're going to add the contents of a directory, click OK. And we go out to our desktop, which is down here, PyResults1. We're just going to add that in. We'll click OK. Of course, we could create an 81. Now let's go ahead and do it just for kicks. Now for refinement options here, originally when we added this case in, it was video and audio files. So I ran refinement options for video and audio files. So file signature analysis and generate thumbnails for videos. In this case, we'll just do file signature analysis and we will do search text index because we're loading in text that we want to be able to search. So we'll click OK and then click OK. And now it's going to load those in a way that we can rapidly search it. Now, of course, these test files are like pretty tiny. Okay, but if you were loading in much longer videos or a lot of videos where you had, you know, maybe a couple hundred text files or something like that of long transcribed stuff, you're not going to want to read all that because you're trying to make it quick. You've processed in your case, you've ran this, so now you can do keyword searching on your video. Whatever, we can close and we'll do an index search now and we'll search for Facebook. We got 2 hits. And we'll run our search here, and we can see once we expand it out, the likes of Facebook, and we can get our hits, and we can see our hits in there, and you could jump through. So if it was a longer document, obviously you would see your hits, and it would zoom into the document where it was. And so you can actually index all the text of that video by an open source tool combined with the power of FTK really, really quick. Another cool thing about combining it with something like FTK is the ability to automate.
So to utilize the automation, you need to have FTK Lab Enterprise or Central. And so I will walk through that right now and show you how cool this can be. So we'll log in to FTK Central, but what we want to look at is FTK Connect. FTK Connect is our automation engine, automation API. I'll come in here, and I've already run this, but I'll walk you through how we could do that. So notice I have this automation profile set up called index transcription. And index transcription is designed to do really one thing, and that's index the files that we've transcribed back into our case. So I gave it a name. So when I go into create, I gave it a name, index transcription, and I click next. And then over here on the left, I have all these options. So first, what's going to kick off the start of the automation? In this case, we're going to use a watch folder, which means anything that I dump into this watch folder here is going to kick off the following process. So it's really cool. You can dump in forensic images. In this case, we're going to put in raw files. You can kind of, whatever you put in there, it's going to automate. So transcribe audio is the directory, and we'll talk about that a little more in a second. So then The next, what we want to do is case details. Now I have it set to new, and then I assign what users I want to have work that case. But inside of the watch folder, a really awesome feature of FTK Connect is that if you name the directory that you're dumping your evidence files into that watch folder the same as a case name that already exists, it will actually add that evidence automatically to that case. So notice that this case up here is named audio transcription. So when I ran this automation process earlier off camera, the output I put into Python Scripter was send it to the F drive transcribe audio transcription directory. And so my Python script would create that directory inside of that folder and dump the text files into that directory. Then what happens is FTK Connect will detect that, hey, okay, I already have an audio transcription case, so Justin must want to dump that evidence into that case. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Now what do? I'm going to process that, and I have a profile here called index only. Index only literally has two features. It's going to check the file signature because it's required to index it, and then it's going to index it. So it's going to pull all that text into the DT search engine so we can search it. Okay. Then what I did is I also added a search and tag feature to this automation. So I have a text file here at this location with search terms in it that I want to search that text for. So let's say it's a CSAM investigation. You know, you've got the search terms that you commonly search for, or let's say that you have a victim name or a phrase that you are specifically looking for in these things. So rather than have to listen to every single video, this will transcribe the text and you can at least get a head start. So you could create a simple text file with a label to automatically search. And let me show you the format of that search terms here. I'll open this up. This is a different one, not the one I ran on this, but you can see the search term followed by what you want to label, the search term, what you want to label, etc. So it's just laid out like that. Once I had all that, I hit finish. In this case, I'm just going to hit cancel, and it's saved and it's ready to go. So inside of FTK, when Whisper generated the text files containing the transcription, it was dropped into that watch folder, automatically processed, and then notice that we have the text files reloaded back in here. And in this case, we have a hit on our label social, okay? And so in that case, I put in Facebook in here, and we got a hit on that search. We're combining Whisper with FTK to get the most out of our investigations, most out of our analysis by using all the tools at our disposal. So let's talk setup. So a couple things that you're going to need to have is you're going to need to have FFmpeg, because Whisper uses that to read audio files and video files and all that sort of stuff. So you can go out and download that. It just comes in a 7-zip file that you can, pull down. And then I put this directly onto my root of C. Because what you need to do once you get that put on your C drive is you're going to need to load it into path. Okay? You need to have it in your path statement so that Python can get a hold of that when Whisper runs. Okay? So you'll want to have that in your path statement. The other thing you're going to want to install if you don't already have it, well, first off, you're going to need Python. Whisper requires Python 3.7 and above. So you're going to need that. In this case, I was using Python 3.10. And if you don't have Git, you're going to probably want to get that. It's just going to make installing Whisper a lot easier. So install Git, and then also add Git to your path. If you have multiple versions of Python in your path statement, you're going to want to have your 3.7 or 3.10 or whatever you've got, 3.7 and above,
on the highest level of your path. So notice that I do have things like 2.7 and 3.7, etc. There's various things that FTK needs older versions for or whatever, so they're there. But you're going to want your 3.7 and above to be at the top level above all the other versions to make sure that you don't get any conflicts like that. Yeah, simple setup there. So, okay, so now that you've got FFmpeg extracted on your C drive or wherever you put it, you've got Git installed and both of those added to path, and you've got 3.7 Python and above, and it's the version that your system will use due to path. You're good to close out of that. Now you're ready to jump in and run or install Whisper. Simple install. So what you're going to type is pip space install space git plus https://github.com/openai/whisper.git. At this point, it's going to launch the download and the install. And I left this up to show you just kind of how much stuff is going to pop up. Okay, this is going to install any dependencies, all that sort of stuff, but it is going to have a bunch of different status bars that go. Just let that run. Okay, so once that gets done, you are basically ready to go. I recommend a restart just to make sure everything's committed with your path and with all that sort of stuff. How much code does Whisper require to get running? Not a lot. And that's what's so cool about it, is with about 3 or 4 lines of Python code, you can have a script that will transcribe your audio. Of course, you can wrap other things around that to make it do other things, but let's start with the basics here. So in PowerShell, we'll just show it. We're going to jump into Python. First thing, of course, you would need to do is install or import Whisper. So we'll get that imported. Then the next thing, once you're getting into your code, you need to set the model level. Okay, so we'll call it model, and we'll jump in and we'll say whisper.load_model, and then you can set whatever you want here. So for example, if I do base, just to minimize the load time, we'll do base. It's going to go through and it's going to load up the base model. Once you have your model specified, okay, you can do tiny, base, small, medium, or large. Then you need to feed it a file. So for this, we're going to store it in a variable called, I don't know, transout equals model.transcribe, and then we need to give it a file. So we'll just do something like video playback.mp4, close that out, and we'll pass it that. And so now it's running against that file, and we called it transout. So what we'll do is we'll just print that rather than write it out to a file for this. So we'll print transout. So you got your text here. You're looking very well for someone who just yesterday underwent open shoulder surgery, etc., etc. So that's simple. There's the text. It's stored in a dictionary, so you can just pull each element out, whatever you needed, whatever you wanted from that. The text is what we're talking about here, but break it down however you want. Add things here and there to fit what you need for your script. But OpenAI's Whisper makes it super simple to get up and going transcribing audio and video files, and then store that into a Python script to implement it into FTK. Okay, so I hope that that was somewhat informative, and I hope that you are encouraged to go out and try new things, especially with OpenAI Whisper, and integrating your work with FTK using our Python scripter. The cool thing about the Python scripter is that we don't have any proprietary libraries or anything you need to hook into. It's just base Python. It's going to read whatever is the top of your Python, top of your path statement, the first Python there for your environment. And you can even feed it packaged up Pythons like .exes or whatever, if you want to package in older environments and stuff. Get in, check it out, really be able to get creative with the way you leverage open source options with FTK to get the most out of your investigations. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and get more forensic content every week. Thanks for watching.